Once you've performed discovery and built out your inventory, you're going to have a whole bunch of assets that are present inside of your inventory, split up in a whole bunch of different ways. One of the things that's really important once you have this inventory built is to essentially assign ownership and start tagging all of the different inventory assets with different brands and parts of the organization. There's a couple ways that you can get this done inside a digital footprint. The first of which is if you click on an individual asset, you'll notice that there's a tag/brand icon here, of which I can start to add my own tags, my brands, or organizations. And I can select from these in order to modify the asset itself. In this particular case, that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to go to our settings, go over to inventory tags, and then we can add these all at once. So looking at the Risk IQ workspace, I'm actually going to add a couple brands that we have here. So we're going to add Risk IQ. And Risk IQ actually purchased a company, Passive Total. So we're going to add that as a brand. And Risk IQ purchased another company, Macabim. And we're going to add that brand. Now, Risk IQ isn't made up of multiple organizations or multiple companies. So we're going to represent these organizations as departments. And we're going to say engineering, marketing, and finally, research. We've already created two tags here, corporate and then development. We can give them their own respective colors, but we can add any other tags that we wanted if we really wanted to express a bit more information or metadata inside of the inventory. So now that I have this information, I'm going to go back over to the inventory. And what I could do is I could actually start by categorizing different things inside of my inventory. So I clicked on the contacts page. We can see here that we have 4 different corporate contacts. I'm actually going to go and modify this info@macabim.com. And I'm going to make sure that that's added to the Macabim brand and associated with our marketing department. And so I'm going to hit OK. And essentially what's going to happen is I've now updated that inventory asset to include that information. We can see here that these other contacts are associated with Risk IQ. So again, we have the ability to not only just modify a single item, but also the ability to add a bulk item. So we're going to go and modify these in bulk and ensure that they're associated with the Risk IQ brand. We're going to modify these assets. And again, very similar to the Macabim situation, we now have a brand associated with these assets in which we can now use for a filter or a search inside of our inventory. And so this is great for being able to organize all of our infrastructure. We can see here 4 contacts is not that big of a deal, but if we begin to dive into our domains, our websites, our hosts, our SSL certificates, etc., we're now dealing with a lot more infrastructure. And so identifying who owns those particular assets becomes particularly important, especially if a vulnerability comes up or someone needs to go contact the owner of a particular asset. Now, one of the other things that we have the ability to do here is I'm going to run a search for passivetotal.org inside of our inventory. We can see that we have 50 websites that came back. I actually want to go out and make sure that myself has been associated with one of our assets because I'm the main provider there. So I'm going to go to app.passivetotal.org, and I want to make sure that one, we're associating our brand here and that this is part of corporate. This is part of the engineering side. I'm going to confirm all of those details. And then I actually want to go one step further on this particular asset. So I'm going to go into the full details and I want to assign some ownership here, primary owner. So I'm going to set up a new contact and I'm going to put myself in. I won't fill in all the other details, but I'm going to click save. And effectively what I've done here is marked myself as the primary owner of this asset. Now, if I wanted to, I could add Steve, my buddy who helped found Passive Total with me, as a secondary contact. So I'm going to add him in. Click on save. And effectively what that's going to do, it's going to add Steve into the system and assign him as the secondary owner of this particular asset. Now, what's great about this is I've essentially taken this website, app.passivetotal.org. I've associated it with the Passive Total brand and the engineering group, that it's part of corporate infrastructure, and that I've put myself as the primary contact and Steve as the secondary contact. And what's great about this is that we know it's part of our inventory. It's already confirmed. We already know that the priority is high, as we've said it in this case. Now, if there for any reason something happens with this particular asset, if the organization wants to go and deal with any remediation or possibly, finding the owner of the asset, that's now all available to them. And so this was a very simple example of identifying just one ownership of one website. But this is really what you want to do, is apply the same methodology across your entire inventory. And the purpose of that is really just to make sure that in the event that something goes wrong, someone can easily identify the owner of the asset or the department that owns a particular asset, and we can take the appropriate action.
If you'd like more information from RiskIQ, you can email us at sales@riskiq.net or call us at 1-888-415-4447 or check us out on the web at www.riskiq.com.